Welcome back, everybody, to our series, The 10 Commandments of Better Pet Parents. So these are 10 things that all the better pet parents out there have in common. If you've missed any of the other episodes, go back and catch up. But this week, we're talking about number 4 on the list, which is that better pet parents put themselves in their pet's shoes, or otherwise, the golden rule. So when it comes to the golden rule, we all know what that is: treat others as you would like to be treated. And I'm here today to say that I think that applies to our animals too. We here at Better Pet Parents have discussed many times repeatedly that we are all that our animals have. So the way that we treat them is going to dictate the life that they have. The way that they're treated by us defines the kind of life that they're going to have. So it's so important to treat them in a respectful way, and to treat them in a way that we would want to be treated if we were them. We've covered a lot of ground in this series, the 10 Commandments, and we've talked about a lot of different topics about what the better pet parents are out there doing. But it's during this category today about treating them the way we would want to be treated that I've got to mention that obviously if we're talking about how we would want to be treated if we were them, we would never want to be abused in any way. We would never want to be kicked or hit. And this is so obvious that I didn't even give abuse its own category on the list of topics, because if we were talking about 10 commandments of better pet parenthood, with 10 being the least important and 1 being the most important, not abusing our animals would be like number 0. It's so obvious. But it wouldn't be right if I didn't do this series without mentioning it somewhere. So I am mentioning it in today's discussion, that obviously it's the better pet parents out there who would never even think of abusing their animals. I know that better pet parents, the ones out there who really are going above and beyond in the role of pet parenting, a lot of those people hold themselves to a very high standard. I know that I did. We want to give our pets the best. We want to give them a life filled with respect and love. And sometimes we can be kind of hard on ourselves about whether we're giving our pets everything that they deserve. But I do just want to point out today, first of all, it's great if you do hold yourself to a high standard when it comes to pet parenting. You know, that's what all these discussions have been about. But I do want to point out that if you're somebody who gives your animal a life of love and respect, I promise you, your pet is one of the lucky ones, because there is animal abuse in this world, and certainly animal neglect. And if your pet is in a safe and happy home, your pet is one of the lucky ones. And I want to thank you for being one of the better ones. So when it comes to this discussion about the golden rule, there's just a few things that I want to point out. The first is that it's very important that we put ourselves in our pets' shoes, consider what we would want if we were them in terms of the lifestyle that we lead with them. That kind of goes hand in hand with the discussion that we had last week about respecting our pets' unique personalities, giving them a lifestyle that they're going to enjoy. But I just wanted to take this one step further this week by planting this thought in everybody's mind about the golden rule. So obviously the kind of lifestyle that we lead with them, whether or not we're giving them the love and attention that they deserve, considering what would we want if we were them, how would we want to be treated if we were them, and always trying to give them what they deserve. I also just want to point out too that there's a lot of situations where people need to be especially conscious of this topic. And I'll give you an example. So I have a client that not too long ago, I went to her house to groom the dog. And this particular dog had very extensive mouth disease. That's a very, very common thing in animals to have mouth disease. But this particular case was so advanced and so severe, and this dog was really in a lot of pain. So I said to the client, I said, this has really gone on too far, that she really needs immediate medical attention. because I knew that it was very difficult for her to eat. And again, it was just so bad. I couldn't even, I just know she was really hurting. So I said, she needs to go to the hospital. And this client looked at me and said, I'm not paying to have a dog's teeth pulled out. I'm just not doing that. And when I, as a professional, hear tones like that and phrasing like that, those are situations where that's less about cost and more about the principle of people acting like a dog or just an animal doesn't deserve to not be in pain. I think that people don't realize sometimes how harsh and cruel they sound when they talk like that about their animals, but I've heard quite a bit of it over the years. And I felt so sorry for this particular dog because, again, circling back to the fact that we're all they have, she wasn't going to get that medical attention if her owner didn't care to give it to her. And she was in pain because of it. And, of course, it's hard being in those types of situations professionally because, of course, I thought to myself, well, it must be nice for you to be able to go to the dentist when your mouth hurts, and this is just, driving the point home that we really need to put ourselves in our animals' shoes and treat them how we would want to be treated if we were them. If we were sick, we would want to get medicine. If we were hurting, we would want to go to the doctor. Basic things like that, they do deserve it. And I do understand all day long about things costing more than what we can afford sometimes, but I've said it before and I'll say it again, there's a fine line between funds and not caring. And so I just know that it's the better pet parents who are putting themselves in their pet's shoes and always trying to give them what they need and what they would want if they were them. I've also had some situations where disciplinary reactions were had in times where that's not what the animal needed. So I understand that there are times when disciplinary tones might be warranted or teaching moments might be warranted for our animals, certainly when they're young and learning things like being housebroken. But this is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about here when an animal needs something from us, and instead of seeing that it's a medical need, treating it like a behavioral thing has gone on. So I'll give you an example. I had a client one time that had a very elderly, senile dog. This dog was very confused. His quality of life was very low. He did not know where he was, and it was a sad situation. And that animal wandered into the street. And the lady told me, well, I went and got him out of the street, and I popped him with a rolled up newspaper for doing that. And, okay, this is a really good example of when it might be human nature to react in a disciplinary way to something, but that happened because that animal was completely confused. So this will be a very good time to point out that there are times where we really need to put ourselves in their shoes. Ask ourselves, if we were them right now, what would we need? I've had a lot of situations with clients over the years where they've told stories about animals having accidents in the house and reacting in a disciplinary way when really that animal was sick. And just imagine how difficult it would be to not be able to get to the bathroom or to be ill and be expected not to do anything for 10 plus hours out of the day and then be scolded for having an accident when really you're just sick. So it's very important to point out the obvious here that our animals can't talk to us. They can't tell us what they need. So it's up to us as the better pet parents out there to put ourselves in their shoes. And I know that the better pet parents are doing that, but I bring up situations like this and talk about this just because I do think it's so important to be honest about the fact that not all pet parents are created equal, so that the better ones can be a positive example in the world, so that we can all hold ourselves to a higher standard and spread positivity. I also think that when it comes to putting ourselves in their shoes, that's especially applicable when we're in situations as pet parents, dealing with like quality of life questions, end of life decisions, things of that nature. That's something that I personally had a really hard time with during my chapter of pet parenthood. I had a dog that had a lot of medical problems, so I constantly tried to ask myself if I was giving him what I would want if I were him. And as his family, we always tried to put ourselves in his shoes and give him what we thought that he deserved to have. And I don't know all the time I didn't know all the time for myself, and I don't know all the time for my clients what the right answers always are when it comes to topics like that. But I know that the better pet parents out there are just trying to do their best. If you are somebody that's in a situation like that, I do just want to tell you that you're not alone. I know how difficult that is. I've watched clients go through it, and I've lived it personally. I know how difficult it is, but I think the main thing is at any stage of your pet's life to just be putting yourself in their shoes and always asking yourself what you would want if you were them and what you would need if you were them. Obviously, always communicate with your veterinarian, especially if you're dealing with quality of life questions like that. But it's just so important that all throughout their lives, we're always keeping this topic at the forefront of our thoughts. So today, I just want to thank you for being somebody that would consider a topic like this. Like I always say, thank you for being one of the better ones. Your pet truly is lucky to have you if you are one of the better ones. And I do just want us all to give special consideration to this week and think about how you can put yourself in your pet's shoes throughout their life, and always just do your best, because that's what matters. The better pet parents out there are always just doing their best, and that is absolutely what matters. So thank you, and thank you for being here for this series, and we'll see you next week as we talk about number 3 on the list.